There we go. Okay, cool. So, hi everybody. Welcome to our virtual Q&A with the African Caribbean Leukemia Trust. And thank you so much everybody for coming. So thank you Orin and Zara for coming from the ACLT. And also thank you for everybody else just for spending this evening with us to delve into the world of ACLT and recruitment on the register. And I also wanted to say a really big thank you to Vic as well for helping to coordinate this event, bringing both of us together, Maro, Anthony, Nolan and ACLT. I really appreciate all the time you spent and all the work, and I hope it pays off, and I'm sure it will. So I just wanted to, before we get into the introductions and the questions, talk a little bit about why we wanted to do this session just from Maro's side. So this session is going to be, the recording will be part of a resource bank for our campaign Tackling Inequalities. So I'll sum that up really quickly. It's a campaign that we run throughout February and just throughout the year in all Maro initiatives, with a focus point on the first week of February. And we want to highlight the disparities that are faced by minority ethnic communities when it comes to stem cell donation, especially. So just for example, these communities have a 37% chance of finding an optimal stem cell match, compared to a 71% chance for people from a white Northern European background. So in order to sort of raise awareness about this and to try as Maro to help to bridge this gap, we really want to learn more from our partners about approaching recruitment to the stem cell register, like diversifying the stem cell register, so be it blood, stem cell or organ, the registers, if that makes sense, and working on spreading awareness and inspiring actions from Maro students. So I thought that this session could be a great way to learn more from you at ACLT and your approaches to this, and we'll create an excellent and really interesting learning resource for Maroers throughout the year to use when it comes to their approach within Maro and tackling inequalities. And hearing from an organisation as well that successfully recruit a diverse audience with a specific focus on Black and minority ethnic communities to get involved with your work and sort of just donor recruitment and fundraising. I think it will be really insightful and interesting to hear more from you, as I said. So that is just a little summary of the event. And now we can get into the introductions. So if everybody could just say one line, so with your name, your role, position, however you want to identify that, and then what you're excited to hear about in the call. So as I can't stop talking, I'll just start and pass on to you guys. So I'm Ellie, I'm doing the Youth Engagement Diversity Project, and what I'm really excited to hear about in this call is more from Orin about ACLT and just like the proudest moments of the organisation so far. And with that, I will pass on to you, Orin, for your introduction.
Thank you, good evening. My name is Orin Lewis. I'm the co-founder, along with my partner and wife, Beverly DeGale, of the African Caribbean Leukemia Trust, the ACLT. And we save lives by raising awareness for more people of all races, but especially of Black and ethnic minority community to step forward as potential donors.
Thank you. Should we go on to Holly?
Sure. I'm Holly. I work in the Maro team at Anthony Nolan. So I kind of look after the Maroers, making sure that they have all the resources that they need and all the support that they need. So I work quite closely on the Tackling Inequalities campaign most years. And I'm really excited to kind of learn from you guys, to be honest. I have been admiring you from afar for the past few years, and it would be really great to kind of understand how you approach conversations with people who you're trying to recruit, because I know that's something that a lot of Maro kind of struggles with, how to start that conversation. So it would be really great to get your insight.
Ellen, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I'd just like to start off with an apology if you can hear a cat meowing in the background. He is screaming to be let in, so I shall do that in a second, just if it's slightly off-putting. I'm Ellen, and I've been involved with Maro since 2017, and I'm currently on the National Maro Committee as the Communications and Campaigns Coordinator. Like as Ellie said and Holly have said, like I'm really excited to learn more about the incredible work that you guys do, as well as ways that we as National can enhance our campaigning efforts to recruit more individuals from ethnic minority backgrounds. And to ensure that all Mara groups across the country are focused on inclusivity in all of their activities.
That's great. And Samaya.
Hello, I'm Samaya and I'm the first year representative of Dundee Marrow. And from this session, I'm just interested to learn more about you and how you do it. So yeah.
That's great, thank you. So let's just get on to the questions then. So we've received a few questions from Marrowers and Anthony Nolan employees for you, and I will pass over to Ellen to ask the first one.
So there might be some Marrowers who don't know much about the African Caribbean Leukaemia Trust and your work. Could you please tell us a bit more about ACLT, why you began, where you began, and what your main aims are?
Yeah, ACLT started June 2nd, 1996, which is we're approaching 25 years almost to the day. And it started originally from a personal need. Myself and my wife Beverly, our son Daniel DeGale was had already been in a couple of years long fight against leukemia, and he'd relapsed, and he then needed a bone marrow stem cell transplant. We discovered straight away from Anthony Nolan that he needed someone of the same ethnicity as himself to be the ideal donor. And so we were horrified to find out that even though Anthony Nolan had been doing great work for 22, 23 years by that time, not many Black or mixed race people had registered. And so myself and Beverly took it upon ourselves to start going out into the community, taking the generic message that Anthony Nolan and the British Bone Marrow Registry had been using, and decided to make it culturally adaptable to the Black community, to get them to stop and listen and to review and reflect upon why there was a need for more Black and mixed race people to step forward to help someone like Daniel and anyone else. And so that, like I say, from a personal need it started, and it then became more of a passion to try and help not only one of our own, but others in the community who are coming out and saying, we're hearing what you're doing. We like to work with you. And these were families up and down the country. And it started from there. That's how we started back in '96, and going into shopping malls and churches and schools, and basically wherever there was an audience, utilizing the media, the local and national media. The internet was very, very in its formative days then. There wasn't much of an internet, but it was there. But the emphasis was on the mainstream media and word of mouth to raise awareness and to get people to understand that ethnicity was so vital in making a difference, because we were told that Daniel's chances, if he were maybe white British, would be closer to 1 in 4, 1 in 5 chance of having a really good match. In comparison, his odds were something way over 1.25 million, because the registry had only about 580, 590 people of our ethnicity on the register. It's taken 23 years, so we had to do something, hence the start of the African Caribbean Leukaemia Trust. So self-need, which has evolved into something much more bigger for the community and the world.
Amazing. It's just so amazing to hear your story as well. And I was actually very shocked at those statistics. I didn't realize like the chances and how low it was when you started. So
yeah, it was pretty low. And I mean, myself and Beverly took our initial passion. You do anything you can for your loved ones, but we also lined that up with our training that came from our day jobs, and used that training from an IT background, project management background, to evolve that into something that became for us 24/7, but we're very passionate about. And so we combined all that and use it in a name, an objective, and a vision to try and make sure that no one goes through what myself and Beverly went through with Daniel. We want to try and shorten the journey of someone being on chemotherapy or radiotherapy, waiting for so many years. We don't want that to happen to anyone, and we want to make sure that there are enough donors there on standby for that just in case scenario, that ultimate insurance policy. When the transplant centers start looking, rather than seeing nothing, they can pick. They have the best pick of who is there. That's where we want to get to. That's our ultimate goal.
Absolutely. I think that's amazing. And attainable, definitely.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll pass on to Samaya for the second question.
Ask, in terms of donor recruitment, it's been such a strange and really difficult year. We can all agree with that. So could you describe your approach to recruitment before the COVID-19 pandemic and now?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Before the pandemic, right up to end of January, we were doing registration drives where we would contact, I don't know, a school, an educational establishment or an organization to make them aware of the need of more people, especially of the diversity, to register. So we would plant that seed. And it could be something, maybe a message that we would have put out on social media, or making a direct link through one of our supporters. And then we would engage, maybe have a meeting beforehand, do the whole health and safety assessments of the venue and everything, and then get our team, turn up on the day with pre-planned publicity on our part and also on behalf of the facilitators. It might, like I say, it might be a school or college or whatever. So everyone would know this time, this date, ACOT are coming in, come and listen, then decide. Pandemic hits, and then the whole world has to rearrange how they do things. And for us, it took a while to sort of really adjust, but we got into a real good cycle of doing online registration drives, sometimes with the same organizations that we used to go to, but some newer ones that were really pre-planned, but we had to change it to online. And we built a real flexible but powerful online presentation, PowerPoint presentation embedded with video, with audio, live individuals, patients involved, to give a presentation to a fixed audience in a classroom, in a boardroom or wherever, and for them to listen, hopefully feel the same degree of empathy with what we're trying to put across on a virtual way, for the individual to stop and think, I could possibly do that. I could make a difference. The main difference now is all I have to do is on a few clicks on my phone or my PC, my laptop, I can register to become a stem cell donor by getting a cheek swab sent to me at home. I don't have to go anywhere. I could register to go and I can book by a few clicks to go and get blood. I now understand why the law was changed on organ donation. I need to go and have that conversation if I haven't done so with my loved one, my family. So we adapted our message to make it culturally obtainable, understandable, but through social media and through online Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever the platform is. And it seems to be working. It's a bit harder because you lose the directness of the one-to-one in your face, but it still seems to, we still seem to be making a connection and getting people to think, yeah, let me click online, let me start that journey. Or it might be on behalf of an appeal. That is the driving force. So we still utilize appeals to make the difference, the human touch. So that's where we are right now. And you know, whenever we come out of the social distancing scenario to the degree that we are now, we can sort of mix a bit more. We will probably, you know, once it's safe enough, we'll go back into the old regime, but you still utilize the new regime. So we'll have a twofold way of connecting.
Amazing. So it's definitely quite an adjustment, as I think we've all found. And I know a lot of Marrowers find as well that it's quite difficult not having that direct response. That's really interesting that you say that.
Yeah, it is a case of adjusting. I suppose it's really a way of transforming your natural message, and physicality has got a lot to do with it. If you were able to get your message across in a physical way before, to get people to stop and maybe change their minds or to think about it, it's how you use that across the virtual airwaves as such, and the visual connection, the tone of your voice, the emphasis on keywords can make a difference. As we see, we get our information by looking at the screen. It might be the newscaster, it might be a play, a sports. That is a way of activating us all to do something positively, and in many cases negatively. What the pandemic has done in terms of registration is forced us all to utilize skills that we have, but we've never really used to the same degree through the medium of visual aids, and use that skill even more so than when we were physically all together.
Absolutely. Okay, so I will pass on to Holly for the next question.
So first, I just want to say you've given Daniel such an incredible legacy. How do you stay motivated to continue your work, both during the pandemic and in general at times when you're not seeing as many people joining the stem cell register or registering as blood or organ donors as you'd hope would?
Yeah, interesting point. Double-edged sword, that, because yes, it's harder to reach and touch in a virtual way the audiences and the numbers of people that you would like to, in terms of an enclosed meeting like this, for example, if you had a lot of people there. So it's a challenge. We sort of see it as a challenge to, we've got to keep trying harder, because we're now in a virtual world. We've got to try harder to reach those people through different social media platforms, to get them to come and stop, listen, and observe and think. At the same time, what we went through individually, myself and Beverly as parents, and also what we've seen over 25 years as healthcare workers in this field, with many, many other patients, whether they be children, adults, grandparents, Black, white, Asian, Oriental, male, female, we see their pain. And you really don't want, as much as we went through it and lived it, and we don't want anyone to feel our pain, when you see it happening to other people, you can only do so much to counsel, support, but when you finish that conversation, they're on their own, and there's only so much you can do. And so you think to yourself, I know what they're going through to a degree, especially if they're the parents of a loved one. There's only so much you can do. So you think to yourself, wow, what more can we do? What more emphasis, media-driven messaging, friends, stakeholder organizations working together, what more can we do to try and make that journey much more palatable for that person, and shorten that distance between where they need to be in terms of success. So it's a mixture of things that drive us on, and definitely the pandemic and the restrictions it's put on us is still a driving force in many ways to actually saying, we need to up our game. And so what we do, and I do, I know Beverly does it, Zara does it, we look and observe what others are doing, and if we see things which are good practices, we say, you know what, this is, we can adapt things that we see, because in our community, we have to dig deeper to get the same response than with other communities. Once we connect, then they are better than any other racial group in terms of coming forward. But we have to work just a bit harder. So sometimes We just have to push ourselves and learn from what others are doing in other communities.
Thank you so much. I think that was a very informative answer that we're going to learn so much from, like especially with just having an emotional connection and creating empathy with the audience as well. So okay, I'll pass to Ellen to ask the next question, otherwise I'll just start blabbering.
So we were wondering if you have a favourite memory of ACLT, and also what are you most proud of?
Whoa, that's a tough question. There's been so many, on a personal note, and obviously because it's directly linked to the work of the ACLT, but the most favorite was when Daniel got his transplant. Wednesday, 2nd of June, Wednesday, the 16th of June, 1999, 6:45 p.m. And when his nurse came in and she was very matter of fact, and she hooked up the bag of marrow cells to his line, and Daniel was very calm, sitting in his Man United shirt, waiting to have the ultimate transfusion that he needed. So that, on a personal note, after 6 years of looking for the donor, that was the highest. On a professional note, there are many. Something that resonates with me, there's a few. Something that resonates with me a lot is a sound, and it's the best sound. And it's you got to imagine, in our workplace, Beverly sits in one office, and there's a connecting door, and I sit on the other side. But when I hear Beverly going, yes, 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 I know it's a sign that the registry, yourselves, have gone back to Beverly on the report and said a donor's been found. And it's an email that comes from Rebecca Sedgwick that says, found the donor. And that sound of Beverly, to me, is like ringing a bell saying, there's another one. There's another one. In the early days, it was 0, and then we would get the 1, maybe miss a year, and then maybe get a 2 and a 3. But over the years, and especially since Daniel passed away, it's been a lot of people over a period of the 12 months who have come through because of Daniel's appeals and other people's appeals. And so we planted the seed, and now they're growing. And that sound, when Beverly says, yes, we found another one, is something. Another one is when we actually first started. The day we launched the ACLT was an incredible day, because we decided to do a series of bungee jumps off a crane overlooking the River Thames. And for us, it was a magnificent start. We got family and friends dressed up in various things. Daniel was there, and we got it filmed, and many of us jumping off. We raised funds for Anthony Nolan so that you can carry on the testing, and that was the start. So that, for me, was a massive, big start to our journey. But just many drives that we've done where we've the night of in November, a cold November day, at the huge Tesco's shopping car park in Brixton, in the heart of the Black community, where a health mobile turned up about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and met it. And we had queues and queues and queues and queues of people, majority from the Black community, registering to join the Anti-Nolan register that day on behalf of Daniel's appeal. And we finished at around midnight under the spotlights. And I think we got well over 700 odd people registering that day. So things like that. And the other one, we did a drive for a DJ called his name escapes me. DJ being told, DJ Swing. For some reason, his name keeps escaping me. His name is Brian. And we did a drive at the Hippodrome Leicester Square, and the DJ fraternity came out, and we were there till 2 o'clock in the morning with queues outside the Hippodrome, people coming in, hundreds and hundreds of people registering, and many of them famous DJs. And that for me just shows people power to try and make a massive difference on behalf of one person, with a you know, a bonus if it helped many others. So these are many things that's done it. And the last thing is during the height of Daniel's campaign, in the autumn winter of '98, Auntie Nolan had a problem, and it's a big problem. It's a nice problem, but it's a problem. Was that back then you would do something like 500 samples. You process 500 samples in 1 week, right across the UK. And we were starting to build up numbers, and we said to Linda Hartwell, who was head of the recruitment team back then, Linda, looks like we might get a big response from some of these drives, and the Tesco's drive was one of them, and there were many others. And Auntie Nolan couldn't cope, but said you may find an outlet elsewhere, and they put us in touch with the Sue Harris Trust, and they found us a lab in America who could process it. So we got all these new testing kits that were not for the UK, but North America. And so we were testing, we went through the first 300-400, Auntie Nolan ran out on the phone to Linda, need a bike, get the bike down to where we were, do the US versions, got them on a plane to the United States. And this sort of thing was happening. And then we came up with a bill of, you know, nearly £100,000, but we cleared that bill through all the fundraising that went on as part of Daniel's campaign and the ACLT's campaign. People rallied on our behalf, and so we showed that we could really connect with people. And so there's some of the highlights, and there are many more, but there's some of the highlights that come to mind.
So inspiring, like hearing you talk about it in that way. Just, it reminds me of how much I miss doing donor recruitment drives, and I feel like there's one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done is like knowing that there's people who are queuing up to potentially save a life, and then at the end of a hard day being like, one of these people could go on to save a life, and it's just incredible. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, and I cannot wait till we can do donor recruitment drives again, because I miss them so much.
just to give you one bonus one. There's been a few occasions where I've met, I've been doing maybe fundraising, and someone's come and tapped me on the shoulder and said, you recruited me back at some drive, some place, sometime back in the day, and I went on to be a donor. Usually when people say that, I think they've donated blood or they registered. But on at least 2 occasions, and a few more, but on a few occasions, that person's actually said to me at the time, I actually went on to donate. And so I would ask them time and roughly the time, and they would tell me the time, the month, and I would be able to relate it back to a report from yourselves saying someone of this age and this sex has actually donated. And this is back in the day when we may have got maybe 1 or 2 a year. And I would be able to relate it to the person I'm speaking to. And that's quite surreal to suddenly meet the person who you recruited, who's gone on to be someone's donor. So it's, and we've come across quite a few people who we've known who've been the donor. We've also come across the other side who've been the patient. So it's quite a inspiring, motivating thing to have. Really drives you on, inspires you.
That's incredible, and yeah, just to echo Ellen, like so inspiring. Just listening to all of your memories, I could just imagine being there, and it made me smile so much. So thank you very much for sharing those with us. Just because I'm conscious of the time, I'll move on to the next question. So we had this question from one of our colleagues, Anthony Nolan. You create some very bold and inspiring messaging in your recruitment campaigns. Would you say you ever view your work as activism, or would you think of it more as a health inequality issue?
Oh,
That's a quite big one.
yeah. I in my work, I suppose I'm a health activist, if you want to sort of look at it that way. Very much utilizing my inbuilt view on life, society, not so much politics. I'm not a political animal as such, but when it comes to inequalities, then very much so. I have strong opinions, and having grown up with a lot of inequalities in life, in social life, and now seeing it from a health aspect, I see the connection, and I want to make sure that the so-called playing field is level for people of all races in regards to diagnosis, through treatment, to aftercare, to opportunity to actually find what they're looking for, in this case, donors, matching donors. And so very much activist in that respect, in terms of making sure that the message is equal and for all parties, and whoever's putting out that message, making it obtainable for the person who's listening, watching, feeling. I suppose the reason why we all exist in the Nolan and ourselves and other organizations doing this work is that people navigate to the message through the frequencies that they want to listen to that message. And so for me, I always relate it to songs. I always relate, one of my favorite songs is Elton John's Your Song. And I always say to people, I love that song, but I would probably listen to that song on a particular radio station. Other people might listen to Radio 1, Radio 2, Capital Radio, or whatever. It's the same song. It's the same message on the frequency they want to listen to. People listen to the ACLT frequency and hear our message, which is a version of Auntie Nolan's message, or the BBMR, or DKMS, or whoever, Gift of Life in America. So I and Beverly and the team very much are activists, but health activists in a nice way.
Amazing, thank you. So I'll pass on to Holly for the next question.
So I saw a statistic on your website that said 80% of African Caribbean people in the UK will not find a matching stem cell donor due to a lack in potential donors registered. Do you have any thoughts about why African Caribbean people are underrepresented on the stem cell register, and any advice for our marrow groups to help turn that stat into something that's a lot less scary?
The question is so timely and appropriate right now, because there are lots of learnings that can come from what's happening in society right now to do with the COVID vaccination. What is being, the fact that there's a low uptake on that in the vaccination by those people of color, whether it be Black or South Asian, and certain groups in South Asian communities, highlights the same situation that you find on blood donation activation, or lack of it, and also to do with, in this case, stem cell bone marrow registration. There are lots of, as we call it, myths and fears and taboos that are prevalent, historical, that have stopped a lot of people from my community navigating to Auntie Nolan and any other third party. When we came along, they started to listen and question, but started to feel a cultural affinity with us in terms of how we were putting the message across, and the trustworthiness that seemed to be, even after 25 years, seems to be apparent because of what myself and Beverly went through as parents, and what we, in our community, what we represent. That's not to say people don't want to trust other third-party organizations doing similar work and messaging, but the historical links back to things that were done to, say, the Black community have a cause and effect. Right now, we're seeing it in the slow uptake on the vaccination, and it's the same correlation that's happening right now, and it's happened historically on stem cell donation or stem cell registration. What are you going to do with my cheeks swabs? Are you going to clone me? Are you going to tamper with my DNA? All those sort of things link back to things that when things like that were done. So there's a trust level that has not been attained in their minds, in the community's minds, to the organizations who represent good practice, but you're tied because you're linked by racial identity to and class to things that were done negatively to Black people, and that is a central theme, and we now see it play out on the vaccination stage. So it is, so in terms of learnings, understanding the historical context of where this is coming from, do research on why, for example, Black Lives Matter exists. It should really exist, but it exists for a reason. Why there is mistrust on health to do with the Black community, to do with pregnancy, mental health, why people don't give blood because of things that were done to do with blood donation back in the day, especially in the Americas, even right up to the Second World War and the Korean War. Things were done negatively. So there's a lot of, there's one place you can easy start. There's a book called Medical Apartheid. That highlights a lot of things to what I'm talking about, let alone documents and things on the internet. They're all there now because the internet is the global library, and all these things are there, as well as the myths, but the truths are there. So in terms of learning, understand the journey of people of color, especially those in the Black community, and then try to engage with trusted organizations and individuals who can help you understand what it is like to walk in our shoes, because it is a total different journey. We adapt to two worlds, our own world and the wider world. The wider world doesn't really understand to the minutiae of what our world is like, and so it's a case of just trying to understand a bit and then adapting your messaging accordingly, to not make it tokenistic, to make it welcoming and look and sound and feel real and genuine.
Thank you. I think, yeah, that's so important. And I think within Marrow, we should definitely work on like awareness events and recommending those resources that you were saying as well. I've actually just noted down medical apartheid. Gonna look that up later. So thank you very much for that.
Okay.
And for the next question, I'll pass to Samaya.
Linking to what you just said, some Marrow volunteers are sort of unsure about how to broach the conversation about not having enough people from minority ethnic backgrounds on the stem cell register. So I wanted to ask, do you have any advice for them, or perhaps anything for them to avoid doing?
To avoid, one thing to avoid is to presume total understanding of someone else's, either an individual or community's journey, in terms of where they're coming from, in terms of when you have a discussion on this subject matter. Understanding the Bangladeshi story is different to the Pakistani story. It's different to the Indian Hindu story. It's different to the West African, to the East side, the Somalian, to the Caribbean. So understanding and trying to appreciate, just as you say in this country, England, the English are different to the Scots. The Scots are different to the Welsh. The Welsh are different to the Irish. They may come under the British banner, but they have got the individualized profiles, which is very much to them. And you see it play out on something like rugby or football. You see it play out. The same thing will happens in people of color, break it down to the same level of, well, there's no such thing as really BAME. Black is a color, Asian Asian has got so many, South Asian has got so many different layers and differences. Far East, Southeast Asians, totally different. And Black people, huge differences, and try to understand and appreciate where people are coming from, and not learn verbatim, but just try and get an understanding of where they are coming from, and make them feel you will know when they feel comfortable being in part of something like Marrow, to feel that they are part of something unique. And what Marrow is quite unique, what you do. But rather than them feel isolated and not be able to bring their cultural identity with it, they should be able to bring their cultural identity to help change, not change, but to diversify and to make Marrow look, sound, feel like it represents everyone in the collegiate university forum, in terms of those on the African Caribbean groups that might be there, societies, make them feel, as well as I'm part of the African Caribbean Society, I want to be part of Marrow. I can wear both hats, and I can bring something different, a vibe to Marrow that makes it funky, makes it really different, but in a nice way, in an organic way, just like what this country is all about. This country is its favorite food, curry. That you look at food, and now people, especially the white community, don't think twice about it. It's almost like you own it. That's because you've embraced it. Same thing with this. And we're talking about life and death situation. So if you can get people to feel, we want to embrace you, and we want you to help us to understand how to reach the audiences that we can't reach, but we need your help without you losing your identity.
I think that links on really well to the next question. So I think you've covered quite a lot of this, but I'll give you an opportunity to expand if you want to.
Yeah.
So the next question is, we would love the Marrow community to be more inclusive and reflect wider communities. Do you have any tips to encourage students from Black and minority ethnic communities to get more involved with Marrow?
I tell you one thing that would, especially right now, since we're under social distancing, virtual communications mode, utilize social media, digital media, visual audio in a way to make, and this is where you have to be creative, to get, either you do it yourselves or you get people from the communities that you're trying to reach and to be part of Marrow, help combine creativity that goes through social media and reaches those audiences in their domains where they are, in a way that makes them feel, you know what, this is just like with the vaccine. This is something that is actually of a humanitarian aspect. It's about saving lives, and even more so, making them feel, hey, this, they're talking to me as a Black or an Asian person because they want me. There's a need. They need us. So let's empower ourselves to make a difference, because without us, they can't. We can't save more of our people's lives. But with us there, and with us shaping the message, whether a video or a podcast or something put in the right place, you can really get that message across to different audiences. And I think right now you have an opportunity to really culturalize the message without it. So when they think of Marrow, they think, yeah, well, we know it's history, we know what they've been doing historically, but look where they're trying to collaborate individually, collectively with organizations like ACOT and others to reach audiences that are needed and want to be, and make them feel authentically welcomed, rather than, like I say, tokenistic or an afterthought.
Thank you so much. I think they're all really useful things that we will definitely start doing within Marrow, so thank you. And then just a final question. If you were to do a sort of elevator pitch, what would you say to someone who is uncertain about signing up to donate their stem cells, blood, or to join the organ donor register?
What's taking you so long? Elevator pitch. I suppose it's really a case of, making them realize, do they realize that the power of their own self, their oneness, how their racial identity, the power of one, of how they can help someone who's similar to them, making them realize that connection, wherever they be here or abroad, is so powerful. Most people don't understand that, don't appreciate that. They think it's someone else's situation, that someone else is going to do it, because it can be anyone. But when it comes to this, like to a certain extent on blood donation, like on organ donation, being a stem cell donor is so unique. It allows people, you empower people, especially those who are the hardest reach with the unmet audience, the unmet need, people from my community. Getting people to understand and appreciate the power of the knowledge of being the ultimate insurance policy for someone is of great service. And if you can be there on standby, even if you're never picked, to give someone hope is powerful enough to make a difference on behalf of the person who's looking, because it gives them hope that they may find the right match. And that's what drove myself and Beverly, looking for the match on behalf of Daniel. We knew that at the end of the tunnel, the light was there. We knew it was far, but we knew that if we organically did things and it felt right, we would get there, and we did. And so, it can be done. Miracles can happen. We're an example. Miracles can happen. And as the vaccination, COVID-19 is proving, you can make things happen to millions of people very quickly if you all come together with the same goal. Lives can be saved, and that's what the learnings from the vaccination can be filtered down to something like what we're doing, which is just beneath that surface of stem cell donation, registration, saving lives.
Amazing, thank you. That would convince me. I mean, I'm signing up. Thank you so much. So that's all of the questions. We really appreciate all of your amazing responses. I think we found it really insightful and inspiring. We've got so much to take away from this and plan for Marrow. So thank you very much. And I also think everyone that will be watching this as well, from Anthony Nolan and Marrow and ACLT, will find it really interesting. So yeah, just thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Really, really good questions, actually. Thought-provoking.
Good. So before we finish, we just wanted to take a minute to recognise your amazing contribution and the fact that you're so close to having almost recruited 1,000 donors online. We couldn't let it go by uncelebrated, so we've made a little something that Vic is going to share. Oh, I can't hear it.
I think it's because you're on mute.
What a fail. We'll try again. I only had one job. When you haven't seen anything.
Hi Bev, Oren and everyone at ACLT. Congratulations on reaching 1,000 donors recruited online. We're really happy to celebrate that with you this week, and we look forward to working with you soon when things go back to normal. See you soon.
Thank you.
We had a great time cheering for you, as you can see.
Yeah.
So congratulations, and yeah, thank you so much. Is there anything else anybody wants to say, or any questions?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. Like, it's refilled me with so much enthusiasm for Marrow. Like, it is really difficult to kind of feel inspired and engaged in these difficult times. I know we're all trying our best, but like, hearing stories from different perspectives, and also like how to engage people that we aren't necessarily engaging enough at the moment. I think it's like given us so much to reflect upon, and I can't wait to rewatch it and continuously and keep on being more inspired and learning new things to take away to make sure that we're improving Marrow and working towards making sure that as many people are on the register as possible and making sure that we give everyone the best chance of life. So thank you very much.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
I mean, I think Ellen put it very eloquently and better than I could, but thank you so much. It's been really interesting. And I'm also really excited to just go out there and tell everyone and to watch this and, you know, just really get stuck into helping and saving and improving people's lives. But yeah, it's been really, really brilliant to watch. So thank you so much for your answers. They've been incredible. I've made so many notes. I have a lot to do research-wise, so thank you.
No worries, no worries. Thank you so much. It cuts both ways. I'm always learning, especially from the younger generations, learning new ideas, new tricks, and like I say, we beg, steal, and borrow from each other because the stakes are so high, and as long as it's done in good faith, and it goes towards helping someone out there, then it makes it, to me, that's all that matters. And really just utilize this time right now to really sharpen your pens and your pencils, and utilize this time now to learn and absorb new skills, so that when we do go back out into the old normal, which will be the new normal at some stage, hopefully this year, we'll be far better for it. That'll be one of the positive things that will come out of this situation, that in our work, the learnings that we've learned will hopefully go far to saving many more lives and accelerate the process of saving more lives. So I think there's positive things that can come out of this real negative situation right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I'll stop recording now.